Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, and fishing accomplices, good morning and welcome back to fishing. So it is September 24th, 2025, and we are back in the Long Island Sound. Thank you for joining me. I'm Dan. And it's been a weird couple weeks. Last time I made a video, it turned out pretty well considering. Went to a brand new spot and had some mixed bag action, but what really, sealed the deal was the false albacore we encountered. Today we're back in the Sound, but a completely different spot, and this is a spot I've never been to. I'm really trying to check out as many new spots as possible, weather permitting, in the lead up to Blackfish season, because I really want to just kind of expand my horizons a bit, get some ideas of where I can fish. Not that I haven't done that in the past. Last fall, in fact, I really planned to fish many more Blackfish spots, but the wind was just a non-starter most days. But today I'm off from work, and we're gonna try and make it happen. As you can probably see around me, there's absolutely no wind for now. Not too much fog either. So between those two things, I'm gonna try and get out deep while I still can, and see if we can go in some deep structure and get some sea bass. Maybe porgies or anything, honestly, I don't care. Fluke's still an option, though I'm not terribly optimistic that they'll be there. And all the while, we'll be keeping our eyes peeled, head on a swivel for any false albacore or other pelagics that might be around. So that's what I got planned today. Nothing more to say, but let's get some fishing accomplished. Okay, conditions for today. Right now, winds are basically non-existent. It's gonna be light all day, I think. It's like, I think it's supposed to start at the east, and it's gonna go probably like, I don't know, 5 to maybe 7 knots, knock on plastic. But that being said, we're at dead low tide right now. It'll be incoming. So I want to get out deep to some spots that I wouldn't want to be fighting the tide. Then later on, we're going to potentially use that tide to carry us somewhere else, fish that area, and see how that goes, weather permitting, of course. Okay, we've come quite a ways to get to where we are right now. And I've went over some fantastic looking structure. I'm certain I'm going to encounter some fish, just a matter of whether there will be legal ones, because along with the structure, I did note quite a few buoys, which leads me to believe they're potentially fish traps, which it is what it is. If there's fish here, at the very least we'll get small ones, but questions whether we'll find legal fish. Start things off with the Elias Tough Tugger. Try with a 1/2 ounce to start. It's definitely light, but again, the tide is not really moving right now. If these fish are at all sluggish, I'm going to put some bait on there just to see if we can coerce a bite, but no shortage of structure, which is very exciting. It's exciting to be in a new spot for the first time, especially one that looks as good as this. So here goes nothing. About 53 feet of water, thereabouts.
Yeah, so the name of the game for this particular session is find boulders, very large ones, and just anchor locking on top of them, throwing jigs and seeing what's there. Some spots this was more successful than others. You'll see that this first spot it was fairly successful, but yeah, the anchor lock really helped. Not as necessary at this point of the day where the tide wasn't moving too much, but once it starts cranking, you will see it crank. It's definitely extremely helpful, so you're not just constantly drifting off the structure then having to reset. I'm using a Garmin Force Current, though I'm sure any reputable spot lock motor would work here.
That was a quick one. There we go. Just a little bit off the structure. That's definitely a sea bass. A terrible one. Can certainly start with the worst one. Let's get it back over there. That's a better one. Definitely better. Maybe not. Could do a lot worse. We don't have a great tide, and I don't think this is one of the more lively rocks, so I'm okay with that. Whoa, 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 whoa. No, no, no. You want to flap or you want to go home? All right, let's try that again. Let's fall back a little. All right, a couple shorts, not terrible ones. I'm not expecting a fast and furious bite with this tide being basically slack, but certainly could be some nice ones here. A lot of fun, this light tackle, though. No denying that. Yeah, there's the fish. They're right under us right now. That's more like it. Some of these fish aren't even on the bottom. I'm not even getting down. Yo! That's not a bad one. That's not a bad one. Oh, yo! That's not bad at all. That'll be our first keeper, probably. I'm not gonna risk snapping them off. I'm not gonna be picky today. If they're 16 and a half, we can keep 6 of them. I think that should make it. It's a thick one. It's not a very long one. Nice fish. That's 17 and a half, so he's coming home with us. Nice. First rock, that's a good sign. Okay, good start, good start. First spot, we already got a keeper. Instant. Not a keeper, but nice short. I think the tide is just starting to pick up. If we're gonna fish this light, we gotta go up tide. That's okay. I'm gonna try, this is working, but I want to try and be as efficient as possible. There's fish right in the boat, so let's scrap that. Not even 10 feet down. I'm gonna not be done with this, but I want to try some metal, see what happens. Metal jig. I think plastic's more the way to go for right now until they're really fired up. All right, another drop or two on this rock. If we're not getting another keeper, we're gonna move to another rock because there is no shortage today. That's a better one. That's a better one. Close. Definitely, yeah, that's a keeper. Not a big keeper, but yeah, it's close. I don't think he's that big, actually. It's like probably a 16-incher. That's better than I thought he was. Tide was carrying him. Oh no. It might be time to move soon. Okay, probably spent a little more time than I should have at that last rock. Did try and mess around with some underwater, but I don't think it was successful. Might be a little too deep, but try another rock. This one's pretty close by, but not super close, so could be a different group of fish here. There's definitely a lot of bait around. Definitely keeping those eyes peeled for well, anything. Look at that. Did see a cow-nosed ray, I think, at one point. If anything does pop off, though, if it's like this, we'll hear it and see it. This rock's not quite as dramatic as the last one, so I'm not as confident there'll be a lot of fish on it, but we're here. Might as well try. Not quite the start we wanted, but Fluke. All right, well, good to know they're around. Be crazy if we got a nice keeper fluke in this, doing this. That would be the weirdest thing in the world. Porgy fouled, that's why. That could be good. That feels alright. Better. Still won't do it, but it's probably the best one we've hooked here. That actually might be pretty close. It's probably like 15.5. Since that one's close, we'll do one more. Okay, next spot. This rock I think I have more confidence in than the last one. Then the next rock after this looks very good, but do our due diligence. Well, it's a good sign. Oh, it's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. Ah, and he's off, dang. I like that last one. Not a bad one though. No, definitely not. Definitely drop waypoint here. Yeah, it's a good fish. Probably crack the net on this one. Oh yeah. It doesn't even feel as good as the last one. Gotta go over the top. That's a nice fish. Yeah, baby. That's the way you do it. That's the way you do it. But let's get this guy situated first before we take a victory lap. About almost 19. Very nice. Beautiful fish. He'll be even more beautiful on the plate. That's the way we like to see him. Whew, it's actually pretty hot out here for, you know, the beginning of fall, but best way to cool off, little seltzer review is something spritzy. It's a sparkling beverage with pineapple, orange juices from concentrate, ginger juice, and aromatic bitter flavors. Not quite seltzer, but certainly quite delicious. Nice and zesty. Not too much sugar, maybe a little more than I'd like, so I'll give this an 8. It's got that ginger kick, citrusy, quite tasty. But yeah, let's get it back down there. I don't know if that was the fish I dropped the first time. The first one felt bigger than that, but it could have been the same fish. They're very aggressive. See if we can find another one. Oh man, this is a good spot. Oh man, it's another nice one. Oh no. There he is. There he is. My goodness. This is a good spot. Oh man, that's a big one. Very big one. My goodness. Just threw something big up. That's what we're talking about, folks. Yes. It's like a twin to that last one. Maybe a tiny bit smaller. And a half, thereabouts. I know the mouth is like open, so at least 18. Alright. I really like these Elias Tough Tuggers for this, because sea bass are notorious for destroying plastic, but they do not really put much hurt on these things. I mean, they do get beat up, but it's nothing like, you know, gulp or just standard issue plastic, so let's not get caught in the trolling motor. But yeah, let's do that again. We're halfway to a legit 6 fish limit, which is awesome. Keep 6 after September. I mean, if all I got was 3, I'd be very ecstatic with that, but 6 would be very nice. Haven't done that for years. Yeah. Gee, no. dropped a nice one. I know the drag could be a little tighter, but I am fishing light line, to which you might say fish heavier stuff, but I do like fishing really light line to get down there fast. And I will say the hook was a little not, the barb was kind of bent back on that one, so live and learn. But I've got a different hook on there now, heavier jig too, big. Let's see you shake this one. Yeah, it's not as big a fish. Started to lighten up towards the end. But that'll do. Not bad, but definitely dropped some that were better than that. Okay, this rock, as promised, comes up like 15 feet off the bottom, so I have to imagine something's here. It's just, let's hope it's not, hasn't been picked off to death. There's definitely some fuzz on it. Not as dramatic a start as the last one, but fish nonetheless came off. There's another one. Not the worst start. Certainly not the worst start. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a keeper. There he goes. Dang. That's the one. That's up, down tide. That might be like a 15 and a half, 16 incher. Not a 16 and a half though. Alright, last few spots have not been great. I will attribute maybe those spots were a bit more isolated, kind of off the beaten path. The initial spots I fished were like much closer to other rocks, so we're kind of getting back into that. This spot's not so much one big rock, but a few medium-sized ones right next to each other. And let's see if this is where some sea bass are. Couldn't keep them off the line before, and the last couple spots just was very, very slow. And tide is still moving pretty good. There should still be some good action. So it leads me to believe those spots were just not very, you know, loaded with fish. Alright, big isolated boulder. Not terribly optimistic that I'll find much here, but with the way things have been going, but worth a try. Like this one is completely almost by itself. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Surprise, surprise. Oh, no. That was a good fish.
Yeah, so after the initial wave of spots, I just kept bouncing from one stretch of boulders to another. And by this point, the tide was continuously ripping, and the wind started to pick up as well out of the east. And those two combined made it a lot less pleasant to fish, let's just say. I could still hold perfectly well with the anchor lock, but one factor I didn't particularly like was that the combined wind and tide caused some of the waves to go over the stern, which made some of the water kind of collect in the back area of the kayak, which I wasn't particularly thrilled of. So after a while, I decided to, you know, start heading in, basically getting ready to call it. I did try a few drifts on my way in as well, and I did get a few small sea bass, but then I basically made a beeline back towards launch and decided I'd just hit one or two more spots on the way back. And it's a good thing I did, because I actually had some fairly decent luck, as you'll soon see.
Alright, we gotta check this one out. Massive rock. About 40 feet of water. It's coming up like 15 feet. Definitely life on it. That's not a bad fish. I don't think it's a keeper, but it's a nice start. That one could be good. That feels like a keeper. Feels like a keeper. Close. One quiet. Followed it up. Could be okay. That might keep. I'm gonna net them. I would be shocked if there's still a keeper, and I think it is. I think that's a keeper. All right. If he is, we just eked out number 4 in like the 11th hour. It's not a monster, but he'll go like 17. I wouldn't be surprised if he was like 16 and a half on the dot and people have just been throwing back this fish. So this spot, I'm sure gets a lot of attention. Very big rock. Let's see. I'm thinking he's probably like 16. Oh no. He's 17. He's coming home with us. All right. Heck yeah. Not a monster, but a delicious fish nonetheless. Okay, so as far as new spots go, that did not go poorly. Never fished this spot. Didn't really do too much in terms of reaching out to people. Just basically looked at the maps, made a game plan, and stuck to it. And it paid off, I guess, you know. That first I shouldn't say spot, but series of spots we went to, it was a really good sea bass bite. I think honestly, if I played those spots a little differently, I probably could have limited it out today, you know, a 6 fish limit, but I am not going to complain with 4. You know, it's not bad for the first time ever fishing here, and things kind of getting kind of snotty towards the end. I don't know what it was about that first spot. I don't know if it's because the tide turned right at that moment or if it was just that much better of a spot, but that area was definitely on when we got there, and you know, I didn't have to work too hard to make it happen. Afterwards though, the next series of deep spots really were rather lackluster. You know, I had a few hits here and there, but nothing that even compared to those first spots. I will say I did somewhat limit myself. There was a few spots I stayed away from just because there were, you know, buoys there, and I was, you know, cautious that maybe there'd be, you know, fish pots there, which would be kind of a waste of time. You know, like a lot of the bigger fish would probably be sucked up. Maybe not, I don't know. But either way, you know, those first spots, like, I do think those boulders were a little bit taller than some of the later ones. That might have been part of it. Another thing I noticed was there was a lot more bait in the water when I initially got in. As the day continued, I definitely wasn't noticing as much, so I'm wondering, you know, some of the quality sea bass or the numbers kind of disappeared with the bait. The only exception obviously was, you know, right as I was about to get out, I tried those 2 last spots at like 40-ish feet, you know, and didn't get anything huge, but that last keeper was a nice little icing on the cake event. So yeah, you know, one other thing to note was, you know, alternating between plastic and metal. It was strange, but it did seem like at times those fish would be more preferable to one or partial to one versus the other. So just know that, you know, sometimes it's not a bad idea to switch things up. But yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm happy to get anything I can this time of year. You know, this little like weird awkward phase between the end of fluke season and the beginning of tog season. There's certainly fluke still around. I just, you know, want to kind of put some closure to that. Unless I get out to Montauk again, or we get a really windy day that the only option's fishing the bay, I'm pretty much done with fluke as the primary target. But tog season, very excited about it. Half the reason I'm doing this is it's kind of like a dress rehearsal for Blackfish, you know, getting used to this trolling motor, getting a feel for how it handles wind and current, and you know, when we finally get to that point, I'm hoping, knock on plastic, we won't be using anchors much, so real anchors. But that's going to do it for today. Thanks for checking it out. I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye from fishing.